9th of January 2024, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. This is the Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Tuesday. I'm your host Nelson Zulu, and I'll be joined later on by my colleague Miriam Kaimba. We'll get to run you through in as far as what is for the morning this morning. But something that you can expect this morning as you join us on the Camnet TV Breakfast Show is indeed a discussion on the cholera pandemic, on how we get to safeguard ourselves, and we'll be having this conversation rightfully or privilegedly with our host, or our guest rather, that's going to be in the studio this morning, in Dr. Oliver Kauma from the Zambia Medical Association, and we'll be dissecting on that issue. For we know for a fact that cases of cholera have indeed continued to escalate, and we know that Zambia currently is not the only country that has been hit with the outbreak of cholera. We also have information that Zimbabwe is also suffering from the same issue. But right about now, let's get into our first segment this morning, which is the Health Corner, and get to see what the doctors do have for us this morning.
Hi and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubia Namfaya. So this week we are talking about breast cancer, and yesterday we said that breast cancer is a cancer that occurs in the breast and usually is caused by having an inherited gene that mutates. Usually it's people who have inherited a gene from their parents or from their grandparents that would develop the breast cancer. Now, we say that breast cancer does not only happen in women, it can also affect men, and when men have breast cancer, it can be very fatal. But for women, usually it's the most common cancer that women would have, and it has claimed so many lives. So we want to understand what are some of the other risk factors that cause breast cancer. So number one is age. So women who are above the age of 50 are more likely to have breast cancer because of their age. And so if you're above 50, make sure that you get yourself checked at least every 2 years to see if you have any lumps in the breast or any changes in the breast that are signs of breast cancer. Now, another risk factor is reproductive health. So for women or girls who start their menstrual periods before the age of 12, they are also at risk of having breast cancer. So make sure that you are able to recall when you first had your menstrual period, or even your girl children. Make sure you are able to track and check when are they having their first period, because if they are having their first period before the age of 12, then they are increasing the risk of having breast cancer. And so you need to be able to teach your girls to take care of themselves and to be able to eat healthy so that they can not start their periods or mature early before the age of 12. Then the other thing also is having your menopause, which is your menstrual cycles ceasing or stopping your menstrual cycles before the age of 55. And so if you have your menopause very late, after the age of 55, then you're also at risk of having breast cancer. The other thing is that if you have inherited the genes, of course, that we have talked about, if you inherit any genes from your parents, you are also at risk of having breast cancer. The other thing that usually affects people who end up having breast cancer is people who have been exposed to radiation. So if you increase your exposure to radiation, whether it's X-rays or whether it's any other form of radiation, for example, if you received a radiotherapy for another condition that you might have, then you're also increasing your risk of breast cancer. But that's not to say that all people who have X-rays will end up having breast cancer. But if you have X-rays very frequently, you increase your exposure to radiation, and that can predispose you to having breast cancer. The other thing that can lead you to have breast cancer is if you smoke or take alcohol. So smoking and taking alcohol have been shown to increase different types of diseases, to increase the risk of different types of diseases, and even breast cancer is no exception. So you can increase your likelihood of having breast cancer just by taking alcohol and smoking. So these are some of the risk factors that people who have breast cancer would usually have. The other thing is, if people are obese and overweight and are not exercising, they also increase the risk of breast cancer, and also they increase the risk of having so many other diseases as well. So these are some of the risk factors. Now, I do hope you have learned something. I do hope you'll be able to amend a few things. If you have some of the risk factors, you'll be able to take yourself to the hospital and get checked as soon as possible if you have any of these risk factors, so that you do not miss the diagnosis of breast cancer. So tomorrow we'll be talking about some of the signs and symptoms, how you can be able to tell that your breasts are not okay and you need to go to the hospital. So make sure you watch tomorrow again, and we'll be talking about the signs and symptoms. And also, if you missed any of the episodes here on the Health Corner, you can always check on the other episodes on my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Nakwiana Siameka. I'll see you again next time. Make sure you take care of yourself and stay healthy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nakwiana Mufaya, right there, just giving insights on the risk factors of breast cancer, especially the women. It's a cancer that is mostly associated with the women, and there's need to ensure that you keep yourself very safe, even at such a time when the country is battling a pandemic in cholera. But right about now, let's get to move direct into another segment, which we call the money market, when we get to look at how the kwacha is performing against the major convertibles. For it is very important to get to look at those insights. Very important. There you have it on your screen. The United States dollars is buying at 25 kwacha 0.71 ngwe and selling at 26 kwacha 0.22 ngwe. The euro is buying at 28 kwacha 0.16 ngwe and selling at 28 kwacha 0.72 ngwe. And the Great British Pound is buying at 32 kwacha 0.70 ngwe and selling at 33 kwacha 0.34 ngwe. The South African Rand is buying at 1 kwacha 0.38 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 0.40 ngwe. And these exchange rates have been updated at exactly 7:18 this morning. And remember that these exchange rates, they do vary from one bank to bank, and concerns continue indeed to outpour on the United States dollar. We're saying that it continues to escalate, it continues to rest around the kwacha, and now it is at 26.22 ngwe, which was not the case yesterday. It was somewhere around 26 kwacha 0.12 ngwe, if I'm not mistaken. And you can see that there's an increase of about 10 ngwe, and this goes directly to those that are at the helm of ensuring that operations at a household are really running, those that are involved in business, transporters, and almost everybody, because the concern has been that the cost of living, the cost of doing business has continued to escalate. But we hope that things get to stabilize, because there's already an assurance that has been placed on the table by the Republican President Hakainde Hichilema that everything is working around, and most certainly things will get to stabilize, and we just need to keep in that hope. For we've indicated time and again that there's need for us to be positive and look towards the positive as we tilt toward the negative, because it's not actually the case per se, but we need to keep that positivity within ourselves, just like it is indicated that you only hope for better things when you have a conviction within yourself. And this is an exciting time also that you get to give us your insight as we've opened our phone lines. You can get interactive with us by simply calling in the numbers on your screen, as well as leaving us with a message on our Facebook platform, as well as our YouTube platform. Remember, this is the Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Tuesday, where we look at nothing but the very best of community, because Camnet TV is your #1 community TV station in the country. And right about now, we get to zoom some of the stories that you might have missed in our previous bulletin, and we get to look at these stories pertaining to the current happenings. And we know for a fact that what is so topical as of now is the issue of cholera. But before we even jump into stories pertaining to the issue of cholera, let's get to look at a story where evangelist John Nundwe, also known as John General, is scheduled to make a potential plea on a rape charge at the Lusaka Magistrate Court on January 11, 2024. The 51-year-old bishop appeared in court on Monday but was instructed to return on Thursday as his case file was not yet presented. The Lusaka bishop was arrested by the police last year on charges of rape, and I'm sure this is a story also that made a lot of rounds on social media, with a lot of people also bringing in their perspective to the story. But we hope that things get to move in the right direction, and justice is served. But let's get to look at that story. For who are restricted to speak a little bit about this case, it is before the courts of law.
Owner of Miracle Impact Ministries International Church in Matero Township, commonly known as John General, appeared before the Lusaka Magistrate Court this morning, Monday, the 8th of January 2024. The religious leader attempted to shield himself from cameras as he left the court premise shortly after he was instructed to return on Thursday, as his case file was not yet presented. This Lusaka bishop was arrested by the police last year on charges of rape, according to a statement issued by the police. On November 22, 2023, he visited the victim's house after she sought prayers to prevent miscarriages. It is alleged that on the material day around 9 hours, the bishop informed the victim that he was going to a place to conduct the same prayers. It is further alleged that upon his arrival at 13 hours, he requested to check all the rooms as part of the prayers. According to the police statement, it is further alleged that when he reached the bedroom, he raped the victim and threatened to shoot her if she refused. The bishop allegedly ran after realizing that the victim's husband had returned home. He is expected to appear on the 11th of January 2024 for his allocation and possible plea. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
That is a story before the Lusaka magistrate, where we're seeing that Lusaka bishop in John General, as is famously known by a lot of communities, especially in Matero, a city within a city, is before courts on charges of rape. And these are also stories that we continue to follow up, and we see how things are going to be on a Thursday, because we are told that he's going to be returning to court and look at how things are going to be on that particular day, because the case was not before court, was not presented before court as of yesterday. But we do know for a fact that things are going to move, because we've seen also a pronouncement by President Hakainde Hichilema that things within the courts of law also need to be dealt with in the interest of good time, because cases have been taking long for them to be concluded at the courts of law. But moving on, let's also get to look at a story where Patriotic Front faction Vice President Given Lubinda has expressed displeasure with the treatment and conditions of cholera patients in Zambia. Speaking after his court appearance, Mr. Lubinda claimed that certain deaths are wrongly labeled as cholera related. He criticized President Hakainde Hichilema for prioritizing a holiday on his farm over addressing the cholera situation. We get to look at that story and we'll be back on the other side.
Opposition Patriotic Front faction Vice President Given Lubinda of the Edgar Lungu faction has expressed concern over the handling of the cholera situation in the country. Mr. Lubinda claims that many individuals have lost their lives due to cholera, and he is displeased with the conditions in which citizens suffering from the disease are being kept. He claims to have received reports of individuals whose deaths were not cholera related but were classified as cholera deaths.
And I'm dismayed at the condition under which our people are being kept. I've also been informed about some people whose deaths are not cholera related but are being classified as cholera. Today itself, somebody close to me was being buried at 7 hours when this person was a patient of prostate cancer, and when he was given medicine in one hospital, he developed nausea and he had diarrhea. When he went to the hospital to go and complain about the effect of the new drug, they took him to a cholera center. He was diabetic, he was denied his diet until eventually he passed on.
Mr. Lubinda has criticized President Hakainde Hichilema for prioritizing a holiday on his farm over addressing the cholera situation. He charges that President's focus should be on resolving the cholera crisis rather than fixing individuals.
Instead of him going to places to go and clean like his predecessor used to do, he is sending soldiers, belatedly for that matter, and while he himself is enjoying New Year holiday at his farm. This is the worst kind of incompetence by any president. There is no way that a president can be celebrating New Year holiday when citizens are dying because of lack of medicine, because of insufficient number of doctors. There is no way that can happen. The people are dying because of a waterborne disease. The last time we had cholera in Zambia was in 2018. We managed to stop cholera from 2018 until now, 2023-24. For 6 years, Lusaka has not recorded any cholera. Mr. Fix-It comes on the scene and cholera also comes. What is he fixing?
Earlier, Mr. Lubinda appeared before Magistrate Kawama Mafoli, where he pleaded not guilty to a charge of failing to surrender a diplomatic passport and holding more than one passport. His trial will commence on the 22nd of February 2024. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
That is also another story from the PF faction Vice President. Given Lubinda was claiming that there's some sort of lack of seriousness that is being exhibited by those in the wheels of government to ensure that the cholera outbreak is fought in totality. But all those are concerns that have come through. But we know for a fact that Republican President Hakainde Hichilema has cut short his holiday and will be back in the office in any time soon, because this is something that also came up late evening last evening, and a lot of people were actually reacting to that as well. But we hope that things get to stabilize. But remember that this is the Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Tuesday, and we've given also a privilege to you, our dear viewers, wherever you're getting us from, that you can give us your contribution by simply calling in the numbers on your screens, as ensuring that also you give us your perspective in terms of how this issue of cholera is being handled. Are you one of the patients, or do you have a relative who's suffering from the disease? How is the management of this pandemic? And indeed, you can also fuse us in terms of what is happening within your localities, the community that you're within, keeping high levels of hygiene or sanitation, is access to water among the issues that also you do have. For we know that there are other measures that are being put in place by government, such as that of Minister of Water Development and Sanitation, Mike Mposha, was directed the Lusaka Water and Sanitation Company to stop charging people who are accessing water through communal kiosk in cholera-stricken compounds. Speaking when he toured Kanyama water infrastructure in Lusaka's Kanyama compound, Mr. Mposha stated that this is given the cholera outbreak, further stating that his ministry will pay the cost throughout the cholera period.
Before we get to play that story, Nelson, at this point, looking at the increased numbers of cholera cases that we are recording as a country, do you think we need to suspend certain gathering?
Well, I would say we needed to suspend certain gathering in two tier, but it depends with us, again, some of the measures that are being put in place. For instance, we've got areas where if you indicate to them that you can't gather in such a number, simply because you want to put your beloved to rest, they won't understand. But there's need to ensure that people are given information to the lowest in a form that they're going to understand.
One thing I will tell you, we have seen that the opposition, amongst them the Socialist Party, have claimed that this year, 2024, whether with or without police permit, they will go ahead and hold those public rallies. And looking at these cases that we are recording of cholera, do you think that is something that we need to look at?
I think that is something not permissible. Why do I say so? Even yesterday, there was a communication from the Zambia Police Service that were indicating that they're actually calling off their annual ball simply because of the escalating cases of cholera. So there's just need for them to also ensure that safety is actually prioritized. So meaning that if the Zambia police themselves are calling off such an important event to their end, what about an opposition political party? What about citizens out there? There's need to look at, first of all, what are we doing for our health and what measures should we put in to ensure that we combat it? Because, I mean, it's uncalled for. Why should a country be recording about over 500 cases in a day of cholera? And then
people are dying.
Yes, and on top of that, we also have got issues relating to deaths, whereby over 20 cases are recorded.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's get to play that story where the Ministry of Water was in Kanyama compound.
Cholera, also known as the disease of the poor, for affecting people with inadequate access to safe water and basic sanitation, is an acute diarrheal disease that can kill within hours if left untreated. Zambia has experienced cholera since 1977, with Lusaka being one of the hotspots of cholera in the country. This has been attributed mainly to indiscriminate disposal of waste, poor drainage systems, and erratic water supply. Monday, January 8, 2024, Minister of Water Development and Sanitation, Mike Mposha, visited one of the cholera-stricken compounds, Kanyama, to appreciate water challenges in the area. Here, one of the affected residents, Dokas Chikumbi, explained the challenges they are facing.
Because machani atu mayadi atu stinga stenga ndrama zatu futi gula ma unit because ija 10 kwacha ma buckets yali 10 kuri ben ndrama yili yonse ama unit yanenga pezeki isepano intenzo gomi na kukazi ma flosi that example for then wake up then pangana ikaswa pase so apata the boka mbati ngine okula ma units mine ngazula ma units wanje ngazula mara because even to be my buckets very 20 one quart.
This prompted the minister to direct the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company to supply free water in the cholera-stricken compounds like Kanyama.
This is a very expensive undertaking to provide water through the water bowsers. It's extremely expensive, but we have to do it so that we control the cholera epidemic. But in addition to accessing clean water, they must also ensure that the storage facilities, the containers where they are storing the water, are well taken care of.
Mr. Mposha also directed the water utility company to work on the pipe leakages around the city, as they may be the source for water contamination.
It's important that one, the repairs there should be done urgently to assist in reducing the loss of water, but also to avoid contamination, because where there's a leakage, when we have a shutdown, contamination or wastewater will end up going into our network. By the time you are switching on supply, the water, the contamination is pushed to the consumer. So let's go around and ensure that not only in Mtendere but throughout. Let's check our network. I know it's quite old and dilapidated.
Meanwhile, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company Managing Director Chiombwe Jiri highlighted some of the projects that the utility company is implementing to improve water supply in the city, among them installing water tanks in targeted compounds.
We have another borehole that we are drilling behind the site. So this wharfing is going to go down so that everything is in one compound, because we have a line feeding the tank from the other side. This tank is a 350 cubic meter tank. So what happens is that the borehole feeds into the tank and then will gravitate from the tank going into the network. Like I said, that way, even when power goes, at least we can supply for some hours before we completely run out of water. So we've done this one. There's another tank that we are yet to do. So making it 2 tanks within Kanyama area. But there's more that needs to be done.
Even though addressing water challenges may be one solution to the cholera outbreak, there is also need for mindset change, especially towards waste management and personal hygiene. Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Cholera is a bacterial disease usually spread through contaminated water. Cholera causes severe diarrhea and dehydration. At a time when people thought cholera is only part of Zambia's history, the deadly pandemic is back, causing a devastating trail in several communities of Lusaka. About 1,059 people are currently in admission, and since October 2023, the country has recorded 222 deaths due to cholera. Many interventions have been put in place to combat the waterborne disease, and Lusaka Central Member of Parliament Mulambo Haimbe has implored citizens to uphold good sanitation and hygiene to avoid contracting cholera. Speaking when he donated 500 bottles of chlorine at Katambalala Market, the lawmaker underscored commitment to complement the fight against the deadly disease.
Especially market Tigulisa, we have to make sure that we are selling our goods in hygienic conditions in a way that will not cause disease to spread. Please turn to Veranai. Tamerana? Okay, so chlorine ameleta kule terani. Simutitotera na ministry of health watotereni. So that we protect our lives. This is summary to make sure that we and our families are safe. The message number 1.
The Member of Parliament, who is the country's Minister of Justice, also commissioned the gravel road, which he said will soon be paved in order to create a conducive trading environment.
What used to happen every time it rains, there would be stagnant water, and people from all over Lusaka, including those from within Bauleni, could not trade at this market properly. Business was suffering as a result. So I did make a promise 2 weeks ago. We launched the initiative to do the entire road network within the market and part of the trading area. As we speak today, the road has been done and it looks very nice. If you just look down here. See if I can hear him by. So, in other words, today we are launching proudly, together with our community members from this community, together with the traders from Bauleni Market, the rehabilitated road. This is phase 1 of the works that we intend to do here at Katambalala Market. Following this work that has been done, we will now undertake a paving exercise as soon as resources are found, so that we don't leave it only at gravel.
And the people of Bauleni have expressed gratitude for the development interventions initiated by the lawmaker.
That's why in the family yanga because the market yankhala mayezi ambiri tikalipoona apo chamene mwachita pakatambalala meaning kwenzeni ma MPs bambiri bamene banachita mene mwachita
tandizo kulini kuti mutitandizire unani mwamene vantu benzo mkammatika but manje apa bankala bwino chikukonesa kuti kuli muntu amene atisamalira amene atisunga.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
Being the commander-in-chief, let our men and women in uniform go to the streets and ensure that those soccer walls are closed in our compounds, because this will come at a good time. Why? Because they are a source of cholera. So as the president is coming back today, we want the president to quickly enforce ZNS and the army on the streets, because we may be a bit negligent on it, but for a Zambian mind, the moment we see a man and a woman in uniform, we take some precautions. This is to arrest the situation in the country as it is now.
As of yesterday, 618 cases of cholera were actually recorded in the country, and indeed we also saw a lot of concerns coming in from the opposition, as well as measures that are being implemented by those in authority to ensure that they respond to the spiral of cases that are being recorded currently in the country. But this morning we're privileged to have a discussion with the Zambia Medical Association General Secretary in Dr. Oliver Kawama, who's just going to help us understand the pandemic at hand and what do we need to do. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, Nelson. Thank you for having us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
We are glad to have you on set this morning.
Thank you. I'm also privileged to discuss this important issue that is plaguing our country at present.
Yeah, once again we're hit with this recurring cholera outbreak in the country. Are you able to paint a picture currently as what is happening to our viewers for a better understanding?
All right. Firstly, I must mention that as an association, we've been following and been actively participating in the response of the pandemic. But overall, the institutions that are mandated to ensure that they mount an effective response, the Zambia National Public Health Institute, the Ministry of Health, and we've also noted that it has taken a multi-sectoral approach in accordance with the cholera elimination plan. You rightly quoted, over 600 cases were recorded, and we do understand that in order to mount an effective response, there has been a centralized center of treatment that has been set up, which is Hero Stadium. And I don't know if you guys have visited the center. It's quite an unpleasant sight. The number of cases keep rising, and statistically, as published by the National Public Health Institute, we are over 5,000 cases cumulatively across the country, and over 200 deaths cumulatively as well. Now, what is important to note is that in the response, the government has acknowledged the need for cleaning up the peri-urban areas, which usually tend to be the hotspots. And speaking to the response in terms of healthcare provision, we know that a number of healthcare professionals have been moved to the Hero Stadium. This includes doctors, nurses, and community-based volunteers who are actively in the communities trying to do door-to-door sensitization. Yeah.
We've had this situation even back in 2018. There was an outbreak of cholera, and those stakeholders in the political field have actually compared notes in terms of how the situation was and how the situation is now. But from the medical point of view, how worse is this situation, and what are the factors that have contributed to the resurgence of this outbreak?
All right. As an association, we are non-partisan, and exactly. I would like to state from the onset that I'm not going to delve into the political opinions. I'll speak from the medical front. Yes. Rightly so, 2018 we were faced, 2017-2018 we were faced with another outbreak of cholera, and if you saw, in terms of comparing outbreaks, you can't really say just by face value that this is west, this is not west. Of course, there are statistics that we take into account, epidemiological statistics that we have to look at, and I'll tell you that the case fatality rate for this current outbreak is the highest I think we've recorded in the country. I remember history records that we had the first outbreak in the year, in the 1970s. Yes. And then in 1991, 1992 and 99, we saw cholera outbreaks in the country. And then the 2017 one, of course. Coming back to your question, what has really led to the resurgence? Overall, it is well known and documented that when you live in unsanitary conditions, you are likely, or that's a breeding ground for the cholera. And the case fatality rate for this outbreak is at 3.7. The death toll keeps rising, and the number of admissions also are on the rise. So what are some of the factors that may have contributed to this? The things that we need to look at is what have we done between 2017 and to date. Have we addressed the major challenges which were pertaining to access to clean water, access to functional sewer systems? Have we addressed challenges that speak to the social factors that influence people's living standards? The answer is we are still very far from that. And if you focus on the areas of the outbreak, these are the same hotspots that we had even in 2017. So the key question is, what are we doing about it to prevent this? I think we'll delve into that.
Do you think that we need to suspend certain gathering, looking at the continued cases of cholera that we are continuing to record as a country?
It is important, and I will tell you for a fact that the government is looking into releasing an SI, that's a search urine instrument, a similar approach that was taken in the previous outbreak. And this legislative document gives the government and the local authorities the power to enforce certain measures, and part of which will include suspending or ensuring that gatherings, whenever public premises gather people, they provide the necessary cleaning materials or hand washing materials, and these are some of the things that will be contained in there. And you've seen the Ministry of Education were the first to announce the delay in the opening of schools, which is a measure which we are appreciated as an association. And I think the government could go a step further, because the key question is, what are we doing when we admit people to the CTC, which is the Cholera Treatment Center, coming from unsanitary conditions, which bred or led to them contracting cholera itself? We treat them, and then after they are well, we discharge them to the same sanitary states. What are we doing? We are mopping whilst the tap is open. So we need to address the issue in the community, which is addressing the sanitary services. And for that, we need, the government can go a step further and probably suspend activities in the CBD, suspend activities in the peri-urban areas, the non-hotspots, to allow for the defense forces, men in uniform who are currently assisting with the cleaning up of these areas. This suspension of activity will allow or pave way for them to effectively clean and block drainages that are currently blocked. That's why I was asking earlier if you have had the chance to visit these places. George was facing worse conditions in terms of sewer systems which were blocked because of waste disposal, which is unprecedented. Yeah.
We also did see Tendere compound and Helen Kaunda facing the same situation. But moving forward, we have seen that recently we did see the local authority, coming on board and removing street vendors from the CBD. But now they are still going back. And these people usually sell food on the street and in unsanitary condition. Let's talk about the impact that this might have, despite us fighting cholera.
All right. The CBD cleaning, it all speaks back to, do we have mechanisms in place to ensure that we have designated waste disposal centers? If the answer is no, we need to have them. Secondly, are those designated trading places? The answer is no. So what is the local authority doing about that? It's not an issue of whether the law provides for them or not. The law is clear on where people need to trade from. So it brings us back to one of the fundamental aspects that we need to address. Why are people in those areas in the first place? These are people who fend from selling on the streets, on hand-to-mouth kind of trading. So even as we propose closure, we need to have alternatives or set in place. So why are they going back? Is it that we have not provided alternative trading zones? If so, we need to ensure that we provide those. And it's a major contributor really to an indiscriminate waste disposal. And with the rainy season, trust me, those are bound to be areas of spread for cholera. And you also find that in these same areas of trading, people will be selling food products next to a flooded zone or next to a waste center with flies all over. All those are vectors of transmission.
Talking about indiscriminate disposal, do you think that as citizens we are also negligence in terms of disposing, how we dispose our our waste? Because most of the times we have seen they would call upon boma my garbage, stuff like that. But apart from the citizens, are we seen also the local authority coming on board, doing enough sensitization to ensure that people understand that this has a bad implication on our health at the end of the day?
You've rightly quoted. Our culture in terms of hygiene or health habits is pretty bad in this country. And in as much as we would want a policeman out there to police issues of how one is disposing, it's incumbent upon us as citizens to take it up and ensure that, and understand that if you throw a piece of paper where it's not supposed to be, if you dispose fecal waste in an undesignated area, that has potential to cause harm or breed diseases. So one, social behavioral change needs to be advocated for. We need to be able to educate the community, sensitize the community massively to understand the impact. And on the local authority front, they need to put in measures and make it easy for people to access bins, for instance. If you go to the CBD, how often have you seen a bin for you to throw in, even just a piece of your sweet rubber? Are they readily there? The answer is no. So we need these to be set up in those areas. And above all, take people to the right designated zones for trading.
Yeah, access to water as well as sanitation has been something that has been a thorn issue, especially here in Zambia. And for some time, we've struggled to have adequate access to water as well as proper sanitation. What measures do we really need to ensure that we look at all these issues and address them in totality?
All right. I will take you back to 2018 when we were grappling with the cholera outbreak. We saw the development of the National Cholera Elimination Plan, which was planned for 2018-2025. And that document or that framework that was developed clearly stipulates and identifies, firstly, the hotspots. Secondly, it acknowledges that the challenges that we face, not just in Zambia, but sub-Saharan region, wash vulnerabilities still remain at large. And those are some of the things that we need to begin addressing. Now, the president of this country has also made a statement regarding the need to invest in cleaning of sewer systems. What we need is that that pronouncement must be followed with active action. It is what we need. So we need to provide water, in these Kanyama, Matero, George, people need to access clean water. Second, we need to address social behavioral issues. We need people to know that when they dispose waste, when they drink water from unsafe places, they are likely to have contract cholera. Issues of sanitation border on all these that I'm talking about. Sewer lines need to be installed. And overall, one of the recommendations that has been made is to ensure that these unplanned settlements, which of course have got factors that lead to them. Part of them is socio-economic issues. So people migrating from rural areas to urban areas to seek employment, to seek better standards of living leads to expansion of the city at a rapid rate, overrunning probably the local authorities' capacity to respond and provide those sanitary services. However, as an association, what we are putting on record is that any place that does not allow or provide the necessary wash infrastructure, that is access to clean water, functional sewer systems, hygienic premises of living, is not safe for habitation. So what the government needs to put its foot down and simply provide alternative areas of settlement. The cost implications of that are quite huge, we understand that, but in the long term, if we are going to prevent future outbreaks of cholera, those are the discussions we need to be having. Those are the action and the direction that we need to be going. So I'll also maybe bring it back to, we have CDF, Constituency Development Fund. These are resources that can be channeled towards installing proper infrastructure that ensures that people have access to water, clean sanitary conditions.
I'm glad you touched on the aspect of infrastructure. What is also so worrying is the fact that this outbreak has hit even areas where adequate to healthcare system is now quite a challenge. For instance, I'll talk of Vubwi, Lumezi, and these other districts. Yes. Is also this a time that we also need to have a holistic approach towards ensuring that health infrastructure is built in all parts of the country to ensure that everyone is covered?
Universal access to health services.
Exactly.
I believe that's what you're looking at. Yeah, one of the things is provision of ensuring that health facilities are as close to at least within 5 kilometers as recommended by WHO. And rightly so, we need to ensure that we provide the services. However, the question I need to pose to you is that if we ensure that people adopt health living habits, we ensure that people understand the implications of unhealthy habits, will we really need to have a huge, or will we see a huge influx of patients coming into the hospitals? The answer is no. What I'm trying to focus on is primary health care, which is prevention. We need to focus on educating the communities about health living habits. But in as much as we do that, we need to ensure that if in an unfortunate event somebody falls ill, they shouldn't have to travel 20 kilometers just to find a health facility. So we need to ensure these underserved communities, like you mentioned, Vubwi, we provide even the basic health posts, a clinic, so that we provide primary health care services.
Let's talk about the stigma to cholera. We did see the Vice President last week did allude to the fact that a lot of people are dying in homes due to stigma. Others wouldn't even want that. You know, there's always that.
Yes.
A person going can distance.
Yes.
Yeah, stigma, even way back, the previous outbreaks, it was one of the social behavioral issues that I was talking about that had to be dealt with. And it has a huge implication in terms of the response to treatment. Remember, Nelson, if you have a headache today and you sit on that headache, maybe the major issue breathing in your head, and you sit at home and decide to go when it gets worse, when you can't even walk, the impact or the effect that has is, will the treatment instituted be effective? The answer is either yes or no, but most likely it might be on the negative. So the same applies to cholera. The stigma is arising from the fact that people who are feeling they'll be perceived as being dirty. Yeah, but that should not be the case. And we made a call as Zambia Medical Association a few weeks back to the community to ensure that if your colleague, your neighbor, or any other person that you come across is exhibiting symptoms, diarrhea, vomiting, this is rice water diarrhea, instead of looking down on them, what you need to do is help them, assist them to reach the nearest health facility in the quickest possible time. Because the sooner you reach the health facility, the better the chances are for you to actually the treatment to be effective. Yes, and I will state here that the Zambia National Public Health Institute did inform us just on, I think on Sunday, we had a town hall engagement, the Zambia Medical Association, the medical profession, and the Public Health Institute. They highlighted a concern in terms of the fatality percentage comparison between the cholera treatment centers and in the communities. We found that it was at 58% in the communities as compared to the treatment centers, which was at 42%. What those figures tell us is that we're having more deaths in the community as compared to in the treatment centers. The question is why? One of them could be attributed to stigma. People are shy, they'll be sick, they'll stay in their homes. But I think I want to make a clarion call to the community out there and the people out there that please assist your neighbor or any other person that you see having symptoms of cholera, which include diarrhea, vomiting. Now this is watery diarrhea and it's quite profuse, it just runs out. Yeah. Instead of looking down on them, let's help our neighbors, our family members, take them to the hospital. There's nothing to be shy about. Cholera, we've been grappling with it for a long time, and it's treatable for as long as you reach the health facility, as soon as you experience the symptoms.
We understand that government is has taken measures and the local health authorities to control the outbreak. But are these measures sufficient, and what else can we do, to be done in order to combat or fight this outbreak?
In the interim, I will tell you what we are aware of as an association that is happening. Provision of clean water tanks. We are told they are being installed in these hotspots. There is cleaning up that is planned for. That is why, as an association, we were saying that government can go a step further and shut down business activities for a day or two to allow for the enforcement agencies, which is the Defense Force, which has come on board to try and assist with fighting of the outbreak. This will pave way for them to effectively clean up the CBD and the peri-urban areas to unblock all those sewer systems. That would go a long way. Apart from that, we are aware, of course, the treatment test centers that I talked about. There are chlorination centers that have been set up. But what we need to make sure of is that these areas should not just be set up for academic purposes, but we ensure that sustainable supply of clean water is in those tanks. Because setting up a tank is one thing, having water in there is another. So the water bowsers should adequately fill up those places, and so that people do not run out of water. Going a step further, I think I alluded to this, we need to start having the difficult conversations. Is it resettlement? We need the local authorities, as they are issuing out plot settlement areas, they ensure that these are areas that are habitable. These are areas that allow for water to percolate even when it rains, because some of these regions like Kanyama, Chawama, they are waterlogged areas. It's difficult for water to sink in. They sit on limestone, as we have been informed. So naturally, these are areas that need to be, relocation could be considered. But of course, these come at a huge cost. But it's a discussion that we need to start having. Yeah.
Indeed. If you're joining us this morning, this is the Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Tuesday, and in studio, we're privileged to be joined by Dr. Oliver Kauma from the Zambia Medical Association and they're here just to help us understand what do we need to do when it comes to the cholera pandemic or outbreak. How is it in your situation, in your community? How are you handling these issues? You can give us a call as well as a text message via the numbers on your screen, as well as a comment on our Facebook platform, not forgetting YouTube as well as other platforms, and we'll be glad to hear from you in terms of how the situation is in your area. Now, I know you talked on the issue of resettlement as well as relocation, and looking at an issue also of planning in the long run. But these are issues that have been there for some time. Could there be short, mid, and long-term plans that should be put in place to ensure that the resurgence of cholera is actually kept? Because we've had cholera in 1997.
Yes.
2018, 2017.
Yes.
And we now have it. This is 2023, 2024, because we're hit with it in October last year.
Yeah, so I also want to add and say, if we do not deal with the issues that are leading to its outbreak right now, we might have it in December again, because this is an outbreak for 2023. Yeah, and the short-term measures, as evidence has shown, I'll go to the WHO literature out there. One of the short-term cost-effective approaches has been the issue of vaccination. I'm not saying that vaccinations are the solution. The solution lies with dealing with the WASH issues that I addressed. So vaccinations have been shown to reduce the incidence and mitigate in terms of outbreaks in the short term. So that's one approach that we can take. But the question is, are we producing these vaccines? Do we have mass production of vaccines globally? The answer is there are challenges there. So it also comes at a cost. But that's one route that you can consider, and that's one thing that is also being considered. Even in 2018, vaccinations were done. The second approach is we need to be proactive, because we know the pattern for cholera. We know that when the rainy seasons start, in these hotspots, we have resurgence of cholera. So what we need to begin doing is that pre-rainy season, if we had not sensitized the communities about the outbreak, we re-echo the message. The community-based volunteers begin going out in the communities to ensure that people are abreast that this is a period when we experience such an outbreak. Secondly, if the water tanks have broken down, we ensure that we go there and reinstall these, provide adequate sources of clean water. The other one is, just after this outbreak is controlled, we need to swing into action. I talked of CDF. These are resources that can be channeled to ensuring that shallow wells are no longer a source of drinking water, but we go to boreholes that are sunk in a proper manner. They go as low as 40 meters, 70 meters. These are guaranteed areas of getting some clean water. So those are measures that can be implemented in the interim. Then as in the long term, I did mention resettlement, but in the short space of time, how do we address the issues of blocked drainage systems? Sewer lines can be put up, and resources, as we've been told, are available. The CDF I'm talking about can be channeled to putting up sewer lines in these areas so that we have a centralized system of waste disposal and drainage. So these are some of the interim measures that can be done. Overall, we also need to sensitize and ensure that we have adequate human resource. I think I will also circle back on that. It's one of the challenges that we are facing at present. The staffing levels are quite in the undesirable numbers. We need more doctors at the cholera treatment centers. We need more nurses at the cholera treatment centers. At present, the numbers are not as adequate. So this is one area that we also need to beef up.
Are you also calling for well-equipped laboratories? Because we have seen people from the medical field, like the Biomedical Society of Zambia, calling for well-equipped laboratory, because this helps to understand or know what people are diagnosed with.
That's correct, and you can't work in a vacuum. We make decisions based on scientific evidence, and laboratories come in and play a key role in understanding the nature of the bacteria that you're dealing with. Remember, cholera, there are multiple variants of cholera. Yes. So for you to understand which one you are dealing with, or is it just cholera, or there are other microorganisms that may be leading to this cholera outbreak or the diarrhea picture that we are seeing, part of which the Cryptosporidium is part of the bacteria that agents that may cause diarrhea, a similar presentation with what cholera has. But for you to be able to pick that, you need functional laboratory systems, you need adequate reagents, and these border on health infrastructure. So we need to invest in that adequately. Yeah.
2023 indeed was a year that was charged in terms of issues relating to climate change, and we saw predictions that the country was going to be hit by drought, and then there are all those observations that were being made by various stakeholders. Do you feel to some extent this also has led or has played a role in ensuring that we have got this outbreak? Because we've had communities that have complained of having a lack of access to clean water as well as sanitation.
You're referring to the predictions of a drought?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so I think that falls back to the meteorological department. Do we have proper systems, or do they have adequate equipment to be able to give us those projections? Yeah, and droughts, and at this period, rightly so, we are dealing with effects of climate change, part of which may be excessive rainfall and part of which may be droughts. And in the situations where you have droughts, you have experiences of wells drying up, which is a common it's a common phenomenon in regions beyond the ring road. You find that wells dry up and people now have to seek alternative sources of drinking water. So that calls for Lusaka Water and Sewerage or the Ministry of Water Supply, Sanitation and Development to swing into action, put in piped water sources so that those communities have access to piped water.
Yeah, Dr. Kaoma, I know we are in the dying minutes of our program, but I know schools are also scheduled to reopen on the 29th of January 2024.
Yes.
But how is the Zambia Medical Association working to ensure that safety of students as well as educators in the face of the outbreak is prioritized?
Yeah, so I think when I began, we did state that the response is a multi-sectoral one that calls for every stakeholder out there, not just the Ministry of Health. And remember, cholera is not a disease for doctors per se. It's an issue to do with social standards. These are social determinants and as an association, part of the activities that one of them is this sensitization that we are doing right now. We've been on radio, and we've also part of the activities that you'll be seeing in the coming few days. We are focusing on behavioral change campaigns, which is educating the communities about cholera, prevention modalities, and also re-echoing the message to the Ministry of Education, schools, to ensure that they provide clean water sources, hand washing facilities, liquid soap, disinfectants, ensuring that if students or pupils go to school and they have their lunch from the premises of the school, they ensure that those areas are without flies and are clean. So this is a message that has to continue. It's not a one-off message. And we are hoping that by the 29th, we see a drop in the numbers. And if it doesn't, we will be back on radio, TV, engaging the ministry to extend this delay in reopening schools. But hopefully, we hope that we will have controlled the outbreak based on the measures. Yeah.
What are some of your concluding remarks to the Zambians out there as we continue to fight this cholera outbreak?
All right, I'll begin with addressing on the response front, that is health system related. Human resource, it's very critical in the response. And I'll begin with the numbers of doctors. As Zambia Medical Association, we are well abreast of the numbers of doctors that are needed at the cholera treatment centers. Given the rising admissions in the CTCs as well as the periphery sites, we can't move all the doctors to Heroes, because what happens in these facilities, who's going to provide services? Service provision must continue even as we tend to this outbreak. So we need more doctors recruited, and we know that 2024 budget for the country did talk about recruiting 4,000 health workers. Our call to the government is that this is an outbreak situation. We can't wait for March or September, or the 2023 recruitment happened as close to the close of the year, which was in December. We are calling on the government to expedite and activate that recruitment process now. We need those health workers recruited now so that they can help support the response. With adequate health workers, we will ensure that at least one patients have a healthcare personnel tending to them even as they are deteriorating or receiving treatment. Because at present, I'll tell you, the healthcare provider-patient ratios are very much wide apart. So the Zambia Medical Association is called to the government, activate the 2024 recruitment. Let us get those health workers now. We can, of course, in an outbreak situation, it calls for stringent and expedited measures of carrying out these processes.
Before I let you go, Doc, we did see a story in the headlines of our news on various platforms where a nurse died because they were treating a cholera patient. Have we seen protective, what do you call them?
Personal protective
yes,
equipment. Yes.
Equipment for doctors being, put in place, being given to them.
Yes, I, with the team in the Zambia Medical Association, we visited the cholera treatment center, and with regards to PPE, yes, we have, there's some PPE that is there. However, this is another call to the community out there, business entities, to come on board and ensure that we stockpile more PPE. Remember, as the cases increase, the utilization of PPE runs out, increases rather, so the stock is likely to run out. We need more players. As I earlier mentioned, this calls for everybody, all hands on deck. So we are calling on business entities to join the fight and support the response, resource-wise, commodity-wise, medical supply-wise. That will go a long way in ensuring that we tackle the outbreak. Sorry. Coming back to your question that you had asked earlier, the final message, I think I talked about human resource, the call to the business entities to join the fight. And the other call I would like to make is to the communities out there. Issues of stigma, we need to eradicate or do away with them. Let's support our neighbor who is unwell, take them to their nearest health facility. And to top it off, I would recommend that to enable cleaning of these peri-urban areas or the hotspots, the government can consider temporarily suspending business activity for a period of 24 hours or 48 hours, depending on the Defense Force military personnel availability, to ensure that these areas are cleaned out, so that even as we discharge a John Doe from the CTC, as he goes back to his community, he finds better or temporarily cleaner living conditions, and ramp up the distribution, of course, of the water sources. Thank you.
As of yesterday, 8th January 2024, 618 cases were recorded, bringing the cumulative total to 6,274 since the time cholera hit in October 2023. And among the districts that have been affected is Lusaka, Luangwa, Chilanga, Rufunsa, Chongwe, Vubu, Chadiza, Petauke, Lumezi, Nyimba, Mpulungu, Nakonde, Kaoma, Nsama, Mumbwa, Kapirimposhi, Kabwe, Chisamba, Mukushi, Shibuyunji, Monze, Gwembe, Mazavura, Sinazongwe, Choma, Ndola, Mufulira, Kitwe, Chidirabombwe, Mongu, Nkeema, Chavuma, Kabompo, and Katete. So just like you heard from those statistics, it shows that you and I need to ensure that we observe the preventive measures for us to be safe. It has been Nelson Zulu and Miriam Kaimba. Thank you so much to Dr. Oliver Kauma from the Zambia Medical Association for making time with us.